At the deepest point on Earth, pressure is so extreme it can crush steel like paper. No sunlight has ever reached it. No human can survive there without layers of engineered protection. And yet, during one survey of the darkest trench ever mapped, scientists found something that should not have been there. It was not a whale, not a rock formation, not a lost submarine. It was a shape, too precise to be natural, too large to ignore. And when their instruments passed over it for a second time, the shape was gone. What scientists found beneath the darkest trench was never fully explained. But the deeper they searched, the stranger the ocean became. The deep ocean is often described as Earth's final frontier. But even that sounds too small, because frontiers are meant to be crossed. The deep sea resists us. It crushes us. It hides itself beneath miles of black water, where the cold never changes, the silence never breaks, and the pressure rises to levels almost impossible to imagine. More people have stood on the surface of the moon than have visited the deepest trenches of Earth's oceans. That fact alone is disturbing. We know more about distant planets than we do about the ground beneath our own seas. And the deeper we go, the less the world behaves in ways we understand. At great depth, sound travels strangely. Light disappears completely. Metal groans. Sensors fail. Distance becomes meaningless. Down there, an object can drift past your camera and vanish into darkness just a few feet away. There are places in the ocean so deep, so isolated, and so hostile that even modern science can only look for seconds before the dark closes again. One of those places became the center of a mystery that began as a simple geological mission. The goal was routine: map the trench floor, measure sediment movement, study microbial life under extreme pressure. Nothing more. But when the research team lowered their autonomous vehicle into the deepest section of the trench, the mission changed. Because beneath the darkest trench, they did not find emptiness. They found evidence that something had been waiting there. Ocean trenches are scars in the planet's crust. They form where one tectonic plate slides beneath another, sinking slowly into the mantle over millions of years. These trenches are not just deep, they are immense wounds in the earth. Some stretch for hundreds of kilometers. Some descend beyond 10,000 meters. At those depths, the environment becomes almost alien. The temperature hovers just above freezing. The pressure can exceed 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. A single equipment flaw can mean total implosion. A cracked seal, a weak joint, a tiny structural error. That is all it takes. This is why deep-sea exploration is one of the most dangerous forms of scientific work. Researchers cannot simply dive down and observe freely. They rely on remotely operated vehicles, autonomous submersibles, sonar imaging systems, sediment samplers, and pressure-resistant cameras housed in thick titanium or ceramic shells. And even then, the data they collect is incomplete. Sonar can distort shapes. Current movement can shift loose objects. Organic matter can gather in ways that mimic design. A flat image can turn a shadow into a wall into a creature into nothing at all. In the deep sea, certainty is rare. That is why what happened during the Palagus expedition shocked the team so deeply. The expedition itself was real enough in purpose. An international research group, working from a converted exploration vessel, had spent 6 weeks surveying one of the least studied trenches in the Pacific. They were not hunting monsters. They were not looking for myths. They were studying seismic instability after a cluster of deep underwater tremors. The trench had shown unusual movement on satellite gravity data. The seafloor appeared to have shifted in patterns that did not fully match normal tectonic behavior. That was enough to justify a closer look. So the team prepared an autonomous descent vehicle called Orpheus 9. It carried high-resolution sonar, 4 low-light cameras, chemical sensors, sediment drills, and a navigation suite designed to function even when external references failed. The vehicle was supposed to descend, map the trench floor, collect data, and return. Instead, it recorded something the team would argue about for years. The descent began just after midnight. That was not unusual. Deep-sea operations often run around the clock. But several members of the crew would later say the timing made everything feel worse. The ocean was calm. The sky was moonless. The ship seemed to float over an endless black mirror. At 1,200 meters, Orpheus 9 was stable. At 3,000, all systems were normal. At 6,000, the external temperature dropped further, and the first video feed became almost useless, except for drifting particles caught in the lights. At 8,900 meters, the trench walls narrowed. The vehicle entered a section where sonar reflections bounced back irregularly. The pilots on deck adjusted the sweep rate. The data sharpened. Stone ridges appeared. Sediment plumes drifted in slow clouds. Then, at 10,472 meters, one of the imaging technicians noticed a hard return on the portside scan. At first, it looked like noise, just a bright interruption in the edge of the trench floor. But as the vehicle passed over it, the return extended. Straight lines emerged. Not perfect, not clean in the way human-built objects appear near the surface. But they were there. Angles, repeating intervals, a raised structure embedded in sediment, approximately 60 meters long, too symmetrical to ignore. The room went quiet. Sonar operators recalibrated. The return stayed. The structure rose from the trench floor like a buried spine, half covered in silt, with what looked like vertical ridges running along one side. No one spoke for several seconds. Then the lead geophysicist asked the question everyone was thinking. Is that natural? No one answered. Orpheus 9 turned slowly for a second pass. Its forward cameras saw almost nothing. Only darkness, drifting debris, and the pale edge of sediment in the lights. But the sonar painted the object clearly. It was still there. Long, fixed, angular, and surrounded by a field of scattered fragments. The team marked the coordinates and prepared for a closer scan. That was when the vehicle's magnetic sensors spiked, then failed. For 12 seconds, Orpheus 9 lost orientation. Not power, not total control. Just orientation. Its internal navigation system began showing conflicting headings. One camera froze. Another displayed brief horizontal distortions. And the sonar image, which had been stable moments before, split into overlapping layers as if the trench floor itself had shifted. When the system recovered, the structure was gone. Not hidden, Gone. The third scan showed only soft sediment and broken rock. The coordinates were checked, then checked again. The vehicle had not drifted far enough to explain the change. The trench floor should have looked the same. It did not. The object had vanished from the map as if it had never existed. But the data logs said otherwise. Something had been there, and something had changed. At first, the team did what scientists always do. They assumed an error. Software distortion, navigation drift, sonar shadowing caused by trench geometry. All of those were possible. Deep ocean data is messy. One false reading can become a mystery if people want it badly enough. So they returned to the site 48 hours later. This time, they used a second system. A tethered remotely operated vehicle with independent sonar and a more stable guidance link. The descent took longer. Conditions were worse. Currents near the trench wall pushed the vehicle slightly off axis several times. But eventually, it reached the same depth band, same survey zone, same coordinates. The structure did not appear. Not on first scan. Not on second. The crew began to relax. Maybe it had been a glitch after all. Then one of the low-angle lights caught something reflective in the sediment. It flashed once, very faint. The pilot moved closer. Half buried in the trench floor was a curved fragment unlike any rock in the area. It was dark, smooth, and slightly metallic in appearance. Though no corrosion pattern matched typical shipwreck debris. The fragment was small enough to recover, so the manipulator arm reached down. As it touched the object, the video feed flickered. The hydraulic pressure in the arm dropped for a moment. Then the entire vehicle jolted sideways, not violently, but enough to force the pilot to pull back. The fragment disappeared into a cloud of rising silt. When the water cleared, it was gone. No current strong enough to carry it had been recorded. No slope collapse had occurred. It had simply vanished beneath disturbed sediment. Again, the crew brought the vehicle up with only partial data. On deck, the tension changed. The first incident had been strange. The second made it worse. Now there was physical evidence, or at least the suggestion of it. The logs were reviewed in full. That was when the engineers found another anomaly. During the first descent, in the 12-second period when Orpheus 9 lost orientation, its passive acoustic recorder captured a sound. Very low frequency, barely above the background noise of the trench, but patterned. 3 long pulses. Pause. 2 short pulses. Pause. Then a drawn-out metallic resonance that lasted nearly 4 seconds. It did not match whale calls. It did not match known tectonic sounds. It did not match equipment self-noise. The signal was weak, but structured. And when they compared it to the second descent, they found the same pattern again. This time, 19 minutes before the reflective fragment was seen. That changed everything. Because random noise does not repeat on command. The deeper the team dug into the data, the more unsettling the pattern became. The acoustic pulses had not only repeated, they had shifted in amplitude depending on the vehicle's position. That suggested a source, not a system malfunction, not background interference from the ship. Something below had produced the sound, and it reacted differently depending on distance. Then there were the sediment samples. Most of the trench floor material was what the geologists expected. Fine clay, compressed organic debris, microscopic shell remnants, volcanic dust. But one core sample taken just 60 meters from the first sonar contact zone contained something strange. A thin layer of fused particles. The grains looked partially melted and rapidly cooled. That was unusual at such depth and temperature. There was no known thermal vent in the area. No volcanic event had been recorded recently. Yet the particles showed signs of sudden exposure to intense heat. The biology team found something else. Traces of microbial mats were present around nearby rock surfaces, but the distribution formed an odd boundary. A rough oval. Inside it, biological density dropped sharply, almost as if life itself avoided a certain patch of trench floor. Not completely, but noticeably. The cameras revealed one more detail. In several seconds of footage thought to be useless, analysts spotted fine reflective strands drifting upward through the water column near the anomaly zone. They moved too slowly to be bubbles, too straight to be normal marine snow. Under enhancement, the strands looked almost filament-like, as though something on the trench floor had shed thin metallic fibers into the current. No sample was collected. No confirmation was possible, but they were there in the recording, frame after frame. Then there was the navigation problem. Orpheus 9 had not simply lost direction. Its internal clock had also drifted by 0.8 seconds during the sensor blackout. That may sound minor. It is not. In precision mapping, fractions of a second matter, especially when several independent systems disagree at once. Engineers checked for hardware failure, found none. They checked radiation exposure. Nothing abnormal. They checked for pressure damage. Still nothing. Every failure seemed temporary, localized, and somehow connected to that exact section of the trench. By now, the crew was divided. Some believed they were seeing a rare geological formation combined with instrument distortion. Others were no longer sure, because every new clue made the natural explanation feel weaker. And then the third descent happened. This time, they sent down a stationary lander. No sweeping motions, no close approach. Just a pressure-resistant platform with cameras, microphones, and passive sensors. It would sit above the trench floor for 6 hours and record. For the first 2 hours, nothing happened. The darkness remained still. Sediment drifted slowly like underwater ash. Then, at 3:14 in the morning ship time, one camera caught movement beyond the edge of the lights. Not a fish, not a squid. Too large, too slow. Something passed through the outer darkness, blocking the faint backscatter for less than 2 seconds. A silhouette. Long and vertical, then gone. A minute later, the acoustic pulses began again. 3 long, 2 short, 1 metallic resonance. And then, for the first and only time, the seafloor beneath the camera lights reflected back a pattern. Parallel lines, straight, evenly spaced. As if something ribbed or segmented had emerged from the sediment below. The lines remained visible for 11 seconds. Then a cloud of dark material rose from the bottom and covered the lens. When the view cleared, the pattern was gone. Most deep-sea mysteries fade because evidence is too weak. This one became darker, because the evidence became harder to dismiss. After the third descent, the research team requested military-grade bathymetric archives from past survey programs in the region. The request took weeks. When the old files finally arrived, they found something no one expected. The anomaly zone had appeared before. Not clearly, not in modern detail, but enough to notice. In an older low-resolution scan taken 17 years earlier, there was a raised feature at nearly the same depth and position. The shape was smaller then, or perhaps less exposed. But it existed. More disturbing still, it seemed to have changed location by almost 30 meters between surveys. No one wanted to say the obvious part aloud. Large rock formations do not walk across trench floors. Sediment can shift. Slopes can collapse. But this pattern did not fit a landslide. The displacement was too clean, too isolated. Then another archival record surfaced. A deep-towed sensor array from a different expedition had passed through the trench years before and reported persistent metallic echo artifacts in the same region. The phrase had been buried in technical notes and ignored because no visual confirmation existed. Now it mattered. By this point, the expedition leadership faced a choice. Publish the anomaly cautiously as an unresolved geophysical feature, or keep digging. They chose to keep digging. A final mission was approved. A manned submersible would not descend that deep. The risk was too high. So they modified an unmanned probe with narrower beam sonar, stronger shielding, and a detachable marker buoy to leave near the anomaly if found again. The probe descended on the 7th week of the expedition. Storms above made the ship unstable. Communication lag increased. Twice, the probe nearly scraped the trench wall. But near the bottom, the water grew still. The sonar swept. Nothing. Another pass. Nothing. Then, on the 3rd arc, the return appeared again. Sharper than before. Much sharper. The structure stood partly upright from the trench floor, angled into the sediment like the exposed edge of something enormous buried beneath the earth. The ridges were visible. So were openings. Dark gaps spaced along the side, too regular to be random fractures. The probe moved closer. 20 meters. 15. 10. And then the camera finally saw it. Not clearly. Never clearly enough. But enough. A surface that did not look like rock. Dark grey. Smooth in sections, layered in others. Marked by long grooves that ran almost parallel across its side. The light swept over one opening. Inside was only blackness. Total blackness. As if the trench itself continued inside the object. The pilot deployed the marker buoy. It dropped beside the structure and activated. For 5 seconds it transmitted perfectly. Then its signal cut off. Instantly. The probe's cameras shook. The acoustic recorder peaked. And across the main video feed, for less than 1 second, a line of pale points appeared deeper inside the opening. Small, cold, reflective, like a row of distant lights or eyes. Then the feed died, not gradually, not through static. It simply cut to black. When recovery teams hauled the probe back to the surface, the outer casing was intact. But one side showed long abrasions that had not been present before the descent. 5 parallel marks. each nearly a meter long, too straight to be random scraping, too shallow for impact with rock. No one on board could explain them. In the years since that expedition, 3 major explanations have been proposed. The first is geological. According to this view, the structure was a rare rock formation shaped by fracture patterns, sediment burial, and sonar distortion. The strange signals were the result of acoustic reflections inside trench cavities. The metallic-looking surfaces were optical illusions caused by light angle and suspended particles. This is the safest theory, the most comfortable one. And for many scientists, comfort matters less than caution. If something can be explained naturally, it should be. But this theory struggles with the repeated pulse pattern, the apparent displacement over time, and the parallel abrasions on the final probe. The second theory is technological. Some believe the team may have discovered debris from a forgotten Cold War-era deep ocean program, a lost sensor platform, an experimental listening station, perhaps even a classified structure never publicly acknowledged. That could explain the metallic echoes, the ridges, the openings, the unnatural geometry. It could also explain why older records hinted at the anomaly but never followed up. But this theory raises another problem. No known technology from that era should have remained partially intact, partially active, and somehow changing position at such extreme depth after so many years. Not without maintenance, not without power, and certainly not without any official trace. The third theory is the most unsettling. It suggests the object was neither geological nor human, not necessarily a craft, not necessarily a creature in the way we imagine creatures, but something native to pressures and darkness beyond normal biological models. Something ancient, something partly buried, partly awake, responding to sound or motion. In this theory, the pulses were not random emissions. They were reactions. The trench was not hiding a dead structure. It was hiding a system, or an organism, or something between the two. This theory is the least accepted, but it is the one that refuses to disappear, because the deep sea has already shown us life forms that seem impossible. Animals that survive near toxic vents, creatures that generate their own light, bodies made for pressures once thought unsurvivable. If evolution can build those, what else has the abyss shaped in silence over millions of years? Perhaps the real mistake is assuming the darkest trench should contain only emptiness. Perhaps emptiness is simply what it wants us to see. The official report from the expedition was careful, measured, almost cold. It described an unresolved trench floor anomaly, transient acoustic patterns, instrument instability, possible geological irregularity. Nothing more. No dramatic claims, no final conclusions. No mention of eyes, no mention of something waiting. But unofficially, the story spread. Some crew members never returned to deep sea work. One engineer reportedly kept a printed frame from the final probe footage in a locked drawer, though no one could agree on what the image showed. The recovered abrasion marks were studied, archived, and then quietly removed from later summaries. And the coordinates of the site were never broadly shared. Years later, independent ocean noise survey passed within 200 kilometers of the same trench. Its published data contained nothing unusual. But in an early processing file, later deleted, there was a brief low-frequency sequence flagged for review. 3 long pulses, 2 short, 1 metallic resonance. By then, the original expedition vessel had been sold. The research team had dispersed. The trench returned to silence, or at least to the kind of silence humans can hear. Because the most disturbing part of the mystery is not that scientists found something strange beneath the darkest trench. It is that they may have found only the smallest visible part of it. A ridge, an opening, a buried edge, a hint of something much larger hidden under sediment, stone, and time. Something that may have been there long before human beings named the oceans, and may still be there now. Far below storms, shipping lanes, satellite networks, and sunlight. In the cold, in the crushing dark. Listening. Waiting for the next descent. If the deepest trench on Earth is still hiding structures that appear, vanish, and answer our presence with signals from the dark, what else is lying beneath the ocean floor, just outside the reach of our lights?